it's just really close to you. So I've actually, when I was setting this up this morning, I realized that the XLR cables that I've got are not quite long enough because I really want like these arms to be like more over here.
Yeah,
because
so it's not crossing your body.
Yeah, but this is the best I could do like right now because it just was not going to happen.
Those things are pretty sweet though.
Look, bro, 2 weeks ago, there was nothing here. You know what I mean?
So are you learning how to use all this stuff too?
Bro,
or did you kind of know?
It's a lot. It's a lot to take.
This?
This thing is a whole learning curve in and of itself. But there is so much stuff that you can do with this thing. I mean, there's like voice processors. Yeah, I mean, there's just so many different cool things that you can do. I mean, somehow, some way, I can censor people on here. I haven't quite figured that out, but we'll get it figured out.
That's what you need. You need the beeps in the video. It always makes stuff 10 times funnier.
Yeah. So, yeah, you can do all kinds of stuff with it. I just haven't really got into playing with it a whole lot yet. It's really funny because the other day, it's a learning curve because I sit here and I was trying to figure out how to get this thing going, and I recorded for like 40 minutes, bro. Like I sit here and recorded for 40 solid minutes. Just talking to myself.
Yourself, yeah.
And then I got up and realized I never hit record on audio. So I was literally just sitting here in this garage talking to myself for like 40 minutes straight. I felt really awkward. And then I had to sit down and make another video because I still needed to put something out. And so, but actually the second video turned out better anyway, I felt like. So it was pretty good. But anyway, we're already recording, so we're just going to keep rolling into this. So I've got Justin Holmes here. He is the owner of Pizza Hoss Emory Rd. And we just recently shot a pretty cool promo video. I'm actually going to probably put a link for that on here. And yeah, it was a cool restaurant. That is a cool atmosphere. And
it was a badass video that you made for sure.
I appreciate it, man.
I've got a lot of comments on it.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun, man. Like, so I got some new gear, and when I get new gear, it's kind of like getting new toys. I'm like a little kid, and so I got to go play. So I kind of hit Justin up and was like, "Hey, man, let's make a video because I'm ready to play." And so we did, and it was really cool. And so I hope y'all enjoy it. I'll put a link for that on the video. Also, if you enjoy this content at all, if you get anything from this content, if you wouldn't mind to subscribe and hit that notification bell, I would greatly appreciate it. It would help me out quite a bit. But anyway, Justin, so there's no rhyme or reason. You're the first guest on this channel. I literally just finished this setup this morning, like an hour before you got here. And so I'm really, really excited. I've wanted to do this for so freaking long, dude. Just sit here and just kick it with people and just find out about people. And like, because it's something that I feel like that I can grow quite a bit from myself when you sit here and you start talking to other people and what they're going through. And, you know, it gives you a lot of humility for maybe some things that you're not going through in life. And 100%. This channel, one of the things that we're wanting to deal with a lot here is like men's issues, maybe some things that men go through that's not talked about enough, because I feel like, you know, kind of like where we're at in society, like kind of where we're raised at, I feel like we're in this position where like where our parents were like hard, like softer than their parents were, but they were still hard. And then we kind of got a little bit softer, and our next generation gets a little bit softer. And so that's where we're kind of at. And so it kind of, I feel like it leaves men in a weird situation right now. And we're caught between this weird kind of conundrum between what we knew our dads to be like versus kind of like where we're at right now. And sometimes I almost feel kind of emasculated because I think of my dad and like some of the stuff that my dad did. And then I'm sitting here thinking about how I kind of handle my own children, and it just doesn't seem quite right. You know what I mean? And so that's
never feels right.
No, it never do. Raising kids is so crazy complicated, man. And especially right now, since there's 7 up in here, you know, and we're having to make some calculated decisions a lot of times. And but anyway, that's kind of what we want to deal with some stuff on this show. Like, obviously, we want to talk about like what's going on in your life. You know, obviously, you own a pizza restaurant, which is really freaking cool. And but there's also probably a lot more that I don't know about you and stuff, and maybe some stuff you want to talk about, maybe some stuff you don't. And I don't know. So we'll just kind of see what happens. But so where are you from?
I've spent most of my life living in Knoxville.
Gotcha.
You know, I was born in Texas, lived out there for a few years, so I don't remember it. I was like 2 years old and I moved away, came to Knoxville. 12 years old, I moved out to California. So everyone that I talk to, I tell everyone I'm from California. But I moved back here when I was 27. Now I'm 42. So I've spent most of my life living in Knoxville.
Gotcha.
But I definitely identify being from California because that's like where my personality was formed.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, all that stuff.
For sure. Do you ever go out there?
So I haven't been in like 5 years. When I moved out here, I think I've been here 14, 15 years now. I used to go back 2, 3, 4 times a year.
Yeah.
And now I haven't been probably in the last 5 years.
Yeah.
So
Any
it's
reason?
something. No reason, you know.
changed out
I've been
there,
dating
or-
Ashley for that long, and
Yeah.
we take a lot of trips. We're fortunate we get to travel a lot. So every time
Yeah.
we do something, it's just more fun to go do something else. We talk all the time. I want to take her back and introduce her to my friends and see where I lived and all that stuff. But it's also, since COVID, just traveling out west has gotten so much more expensive. The flights
sure.
are out there aren't as good as they used to be. You're traveling like a whole day and things like that. So
Yeah.
it's just harder to travel out there.
Yeah. Me and my wife got married last year. We just had our first year anniversary. And when we got married, what we were wanting to do for our honeymoon, we actually wanted to go fly into San Francisco and then cruise up PCH,
Heck yeah.
up into the Redwoods.
I never did that. I always told myself I'm just going to drive up to PCH one day, and I never did that.
Yeah. Her mom,
regret
because she's from Long Beach, and so her parents, I believe they've said a few times, you got to make that drive up PCH, and so that's what we really, really wanted to do. We were going to go up, like I said, up into Redwood, spend a couple of days up there. I believe there was a little town right outside of Redwood called Eureka,
Yeah.
and it was like these old Victorian style houses and stuff. It was really cool, man. That's where we wanted to stay. But then it was like, I don't know, man. I kept looking more and more into San Francisco, and I'm like, I don't really know if I want to fly into San Francisco and hang out for a day or two. It seemed a little sketchy, and so. But so yeah, we rerouted and we went on a cruise in the middle of the ocean. That was cool.
Heck yeah, cruises are awesome.
They are awesome, man.
That's funny about San Francisco. We were planning a trip for a month from now. I'm a big 49er fan. They play in San Francisco, so we're gonna go out there for a game. Then we kind of dropped the ball on that, but I do love San Francisco. The food out there, I'm a big seafood guy, and so San Francisco's food. It is a sketchy kind of city. It's a little weird, but the food out there is amazing. I definitely love it.
Yeah, I just want to go out there and see the different landscape, man. I feel like just California just looks so different. As a photographer, though,
you got everything.
Yeah, man, I would love to get out there and shoot on some of those rocky coastlines and stuff, man.
Oh,
That would
yeah,
be
you'd have a
super cool.
blast.
Oh yeah, for sure. What is it? What is it that you like about Tennessee better than California, or is it just kind of where you're at right now? Or?
No, I love it here. It's funny because probably for the first 5 years, man, it was a tough adjustment. I hated it here. I was miserable. I think a lot of it more had to do with just like the things I had going on in my life, job and all that stuff. And even starting Pizza Hoss for the first 3-4 years was difficult. That was right around the time I first moved out here. So that's kind of what I jumped into. But I love it now. I'll never go back to California. I mean, I just think this is the best place.
Yeah,
I think the people, number one. I've always said the people, ever since I've lived here, the people are definitely the best. I mean, just so genuine and great, loyal, best people. But also it's just a lifestyle, great place to, raise a family. I think the only thing I miss from California is I'm a big sports fan. I'm a big pro sports fan. So not having pro sports out here kills me.
Yeah.
Not having a lot of people into pro because everyone's into college out here. So I don't have a lot of people to talk to about that. So that's kind of a bit of a bummer, but absolutely love it here. And I'd never probably live anywhere else again.
Yeah, that's got to be a cool thing to be a restaurant owner around here too, because we do live in a pretty cool place with some pretty cool people. And so it's got to make it really cool being a restaurant owner and having so many different people come in. That's just cool, man.
Heck yeah.
Just chill. So what's the coolest thing about your restaurant, you think? Like, what do you love the most about kind of what you got going on?
It's also the people.
Yeah,
everything's all revolves around people, I think. We usually have a great crew, even though they drive me nuts a lot. I love our staff. We've always had really good people.
Yeah.
And then the clientele, they're the best too. They're so supportive. We just did a fundraiser last night, for 11-year-old girl who's battling cancer and her family and everything. Awesome. And just seeing like how many people came in and the support and how happy everyone was.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, and even my manager texted me last night. He's like, man, thank you so much for letting me be part of this. Like our staff was touched by it. Like, and they were all so excited to be involved. And then all the people there, I mean, we got hammered. We shattered our sales record for sales in the first 2 hours. I mean, it was crazy. And even though service wasn't the best, everyone was just so happy and understanding. And they were all there to support, Andy and her family. And so those are like the best moments for me, 100%.
For sure, dude.
Yeah,
That's so cool.
rewarding.
And y'all do fundraisers. I mean, because you were just talking about one that y'all did a couple of weeks ago. Also,
we do a lot. Dude, that's one of the first things I realized when I became a business owner is like we get weekly requests for fundraising for people that want banners for their organization or whatever, and it's just like we just can't give out that much money. So
for sure,
we saw there was a need for fundraising, so we tried to incorporate that in a way where we're not losing money or having to pay out of pocket. So we kind of make it to where both sides are it's advantageous for everyone.
Yeah.
So we do these things to definitely help the organizations, but it brings us business as well, which is kind of the trade-off.
For sure. Man, there's more business owners that need to kind of recognize that, I feel like. There's this one principle that I learned when I was early in recovery, and it's that you keep what you have by giving it away. And the only way that we keep the things that we have, the only way to keep the things that are important to us is by giving those same things back to other people. And so I think that's a beautiful thing. That's a great thing. And when you invest in other people, it definitely pays off for your business, man.
100%.
When you invest in people, people want to invest in you. It's a beautiful thing. And so, all this corporate greed and all the stuff that we've got going on in this country right now, it's just like if people would just take a step back and realize if you would just take care of people, man, people will take care of you. And you don't have to be greedy. People will make you money if you take care of them.
You can't do it yourself. You got to have help. You got to have good people. So if you're not going to take care of anyone or treat them, like as someone who's valued, you're screwed.
For sure, dude. Yeah, you have to be valued. I know that any job that I've ever had, if I didn't feel like I was valued, I was out, man.
Yeah.
I was out quick. I'm an electrician by trade, and the company that I work for now, I know that I'm valued at that company. They've kept me around. I've been there for 10 years, and they've kept me through some pretty difficult times. As a company, they've kind of went through some hard patches like most companies do, but they've always kept me around. They've always been loyal, and so there's been plenty of opportunity to leave. I could go right up the road to Oak Ridge and make $10 more an hour, $7 or $8 more an hour in retirement and have it made, dude.
Yeah.
And then potentially get on a maintenance gig out there and really be cooking. But it's a loyalty thing, man. Like layoffs come up there all the time.
Yeah. And you got to be happy too. Like you want to be where you're happy. Like I'm glad you said that because, a lot of younger employees, which is what I work with, the restaurant industry, we're, mainly ran off of entry-level employees like high school kids and college kids. But yeah, a lot of them sometimes will leave for an extra 50 cents an hour, $1 an hour. And I understand I did as a kid too, but the grass is not greener on the other side. More money does not mean more happiness. I think when you find a place that you're happy and content with, you stick with it. But of course, there does have to be that trade-off, though. You do need to make sure your employer is able to pay your value.
Yeah, for sure, man.
That's a big part of it. So, but if you find someone that values you and pays you the best they can, or are willing to sacrifice things for you, stick with it.
Yeah, dude. I feel like Warren Buffett, I believe, said treat an employee good enough to where they will leave, or educate an employee enough to where they can leave, but treat them well enough where they won't want to.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. And that's one thing that I've kind of noticed in my, with just kind of what I do, like in the electrical field and stuff, like we're at a spot now where it's like as long as the employer is loyal, this is something I'm noticing more and more. If a person understands loyalty and that employer is being loyal, then they will stick around. They're not going to leave for $2 more. Now, maybe in a restaurant industry, maybe they would leave for another 50 cents, maybe another $1. Yeah, it is. But where I'm at, like a guy that's being treated well is not going to jump to another company for $2 more on the hour. He will literally stay where he's at because of loyalty. If the company's taking care, I know many guys like that. I'm like that. I stick around where I could go make more money. I've gotten job offers. I don't take them because.
Well, yeah, so you brought up the ORNL. So I have a friend he owns his own business. He has multiple restaurants, and he at one point through the COVID thing, he started feeling really burnt out. He thought maybe this isn't for me anymore, so he put his stores up for sale. He actually got a full price offer, and he was an electrician by trade. He said, "I'll just go back to ORNL." Well, he went back there for about a week, and then realized it wasn't for him anymore.
No,
and even that
man.
money was great. He was excited about what he was being paid, but after a week of doing it, he realized, what, this business that I have is great. This is where I want to be, and this is what makes me happy, and that money doesn't make him happy.
For sure, dude. Man, money, oh my gosh. I can't talk about that enough. I have made so many mistakes in my life based on money. I've had money and I've had no money, and I've never been happier in my life than when I had no money. I think that's the happiest I've ever been in my life. I remember there was a time it's probably been like 5 years ago now, like wedding photography was just started booming for me. Like I'm still working full time and weddings are now booming on the side. So I just had money just coming in right and left, man. And then like 2020 was my biggest year ever. As crazy as that sounds, it was my biggest year ever for photography. And I've never been more miserable.
Yeah.
Not because I was working so much, but because me and my ex-wife, we started making these trips to Miami, and that's where I messed up. and because I got in this Miami lifestyle, and I'm coming back to East Tennessee where nobody gives a damn what you're wearing. Nobody cares about your Gucci and your Louis. Nobody cares around. You got nobody to keep up with around here. But I roll up in Miami and I'm just thinking I'm somebody, but I'm nobody. I'm sitting here in a rental car. Miami's one of them places, man, where you see somebody riding around in a new Mercedes and you're like, man, that poor guy's broke. You know what I'm saying? And so, but I was sitting there trying to fit in with that lifestyle, dude. I remember buying a $1,200 pair of Louis Vuitton shoes, and I remember before they even shipped, I'm already looking at some Gucci's like, I need another pair. It's the sickness of it.
Yeah, that sounds like the money bug bit you for sure, but it's hard when you first start making money.
It is.
Like I kind of had something similar. Like I probably never made more than $35,000 a year in my life.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden I'm 31, 32 years old, and Pizza Hoss in the fourth year just exploded out of the blue once we were able to kind of expand and add a dining room and start serving beer with pizza. I went from, $35,000 a year to, triple, quadruple that.
Yeah.
And so, and then at first you start getting this money. It's hard not to start, spending and doing things, especially because now you assume it's always going to be coming in right after that.
Yeah.
But then you hit the bad times and then you realize it's not always going to be flush.
Yeah.
So
who plans for bad times, bro? You got to live now.
So, I mean, I think we all go through it. When you get money at first, you're going to go do those things and get nice clothes and drive nice cars. But then as you get older and you get used to it, then it just becomes all about more, how do I save it now? And how do I make this grow more money? And then that's where, mine takes over at some point. Yeah,
for sure. Man, I had gotten to a spot where I was so miserable with my possessions that I called a buddy of mine one, like I was miserable. I mean, I'm talking like I'm dope sick miserable, and this is just over like possessions, material possessions. But I was feeling like a lot of conviction over all this stuff, man, because I'd probably dropped like 20 grand on designer stuff.
Oh, my goodness.
In a very short amount of time, bro. It was bad. Yeah. And so
now you need those weddings coming in even quicker to keep up with that.
I'm telling you, dude, it was like dope, man. Like I need another fix, you know what I mean? And it was kind of like, the dopamine was just running, man. And I'm an addict by nature anyway. So when I latch onto anything, I'm obviously, we're all in, And so, but I remember, man, I called a buddy of mine and I was absolutely miserable. And I called him. I was like, dude, I'm going to take it all in the backyard and I'm going to set it on fire right now. And he's like, you're going to do what? I was like, I'm burning all of it. I'm done. And he was like, you can't do that. I was like, because my problem, I started feeling guilty. I was like, I could go sell this, but I don't want to sell it to somebody else that's going to idolize it. And like I felt guilty about it.
Or
and
also, you probably take that money and go do something else with it that might not be.
Trust me, I get it. But like that was where my head was at. Like I was like feeling bad about it, man.
That's kind of cool though.
And then I took all of it, dude. I packaged all of it up and I took it over to Planet Exchange. Then I dropped it all off for $250.
Damn.
I walked in.
They were like, cha-ching.
Bro, they made so much money, dude. I had some Gucci high tops. I had a couple pair of Gucci high top, Gucci belts. I mean Gucci shirts, Burberry shirt. I had all kinds of stuff, dude.
Swing by my place next time before you run over there.
Yeah. but yeah, I definitely did get my money back on that one for sure.
Yeah, it's learning,
It was worth getting rid of though. I was a lot happier. I never second guessed it. I never thought twice about it, dude. I've never regretted. I've never been like, man, I wish I would have had the money for all that. Like I really don't care. For me, money's a weird thing, bro. Money comes and goes. I never stress about money. Even if I should stress, I don't. It just always works out somehow.
Yeah, it really does.
And I don't know how, but
if you're a grinder and you do things what you are, I am, I mean, it will always kind of work out.
We'll hustle it out. One way or the other, it's happening.
But I'm the same, and a lot of people, that's a misconception about me, like a lot of people close to me, because I've always been obsessed with business. I'm just obsessed. I just love it. I love business. I love all that comes with it, but everyone thinks I'm obsessed with money. I really don't care about money. I toss that away left and right. And like we were talking earlier, like even at the restaurants, like for me, there's just like I got to run my business a certain way. I just take whatever is kind of falls in like our margin range, but anything additional, like I'm constantly trying to do other things with it, spread it out to other employees and things like that. Like you said, take care of everyone, but also just not letting money run you, As a young kid, my parents, man, when they got divorced, they thought about money so much. And I think that's where, my drive comes from, because I just always wanted to make so much money that money didn't matter. Yeah. And I'm nowhere near that, but like I live comfortable now. And as you get older too, I've learned a lot of things that are different from the way I looked at things as a kid. Yeah. So I understand, my parents battle a little bit more and have a little more respect for it and things like that. But that's where my kind of, my thoughts around money came from, was just like, I never want money to be so important to me that it ruins relationships.
Yeah, for sure.
I'd never want one person to say anything bad about me about money, or I screwed them over in some way about money. I've never not paid a debt or anything like that.
For sure.
Because money, it's the root of all evil, you know?
Dude, the love of money is definitely the root of all evil. Like money itself inherently is not evil, but the love for it is. But it's hard not to love it. Like we fall in love with money
100%.
real quick, man. And so yeah, I totally understand that. And I'm the same way. I love business. Like I love photography, but I love the business. I love hustling business. I love,
yeah.
you know, we sell cologne and stuff too, dude. I'm out there peddling like a dope man in a parking lot, dude. I'll meet you up in a back alley somewhere. You think I'm out there selling some Chinese drywall to somebody, but I'm out here just breaking down some fragrance, getting people
Well, it's the
smelling
fun thing
good.
for you, kind of creating the marketing and how you're going to sell it and how are you going to move this product. Is that
Yeah.
kind of what kind of gets you going, or do you really
Yeah.
enjoy just like the income that comes from it?
No,
or,
dude, I really don't care about the income. I don't like. Obviously, we want income, but it's not.
Yeah, you're not doing without it, right? But at
Yeah,
the same
like because
time,
it just comes and goes, and so I don't ever like bank on it or plan on it. I just do stuff and just make money. I can't have a hobby that doesn't make money. Like I can't be interested in something that doesn't make money.
Yeah.
Now, as long as I can make money doing it, it's like I was talking the other day on the podcast. It's like fishing. I could care less about fishing, bro. I'm not going to be out here in a bass tournament. I could care less about fishing. You know what I mean? If I'm not making money, I could care less about. I got a creek in the backyard. I've never fished one time back there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And which is crazy, man, because my whole family would be out there fishing. I'm so different than the rest of my family, bro. I am the straight black sheep of the family.
Yeah.
I always have been. I've never fit in. I love them to death. They're good, but they're very country.
they're all traditional Southern country.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And I just never kind of fit in, man. You know what I mean?
Are you born and raised out here?
Yeah, for sure. And I've got a terrible country accent. I do know that. And I didn't realize
It is strong.
It is. It's thick.
It's good.
I didn't realize until I went in the Army, though. Like the day that I got to basic
they all
training,
pointed it out to you, I'm sure.
No, they didn't even have to.
Yeah.
Like as soon as I heard all these people that I'd never talked to before, like there was this dude named Kanaki Gordon from Jamaica. I mean, when he got to Fort Knox, it was the first day he'd ever stepped foot in America, right?
Dang.
He come out there and he was like about 6'8", and he's a tall, skinny dude, and he come walking over, and I said, "Man, you're a big old dude." He said, "Nice to meet you." And I said, "Nice to meet you, dude." I said, "Where are you from?" He said, "Jamaica." I said, "Where from?" He said, "Right near the beach." I said, "You live on an island, bro. You're always near the beach." He said, "There's pot plants as tall as your head." I said, 6'8" tall, that's a big pot plant, bro.
Yeah, it is.
You know, everywhere. As tall as your head and as far as your eye could see is what he always say. But the day that I got there, I realized I had a little bit of a country twang. It was pointed out by the drill sergeant.
My friend tells me, when I moved out to California and I was 12, my neighbor, who's still a good friend of today, he always talks about when I first showed up, I was like, "Hey, y'all," I had that twang, but I lost it within like weeks, just being out there at that age.
Yeah.
But now when I do talk to people back home, I guess some of it's come back a little bit. They'll say, "You got some little twang in some of your words." I say some things where they're like, "What did you just say?"
My wife's starting to do it more. It's funny since we've been together because she's got that California kind of thing going too. And so, but like fur instead of like fur, like starting to she'll catch herself now. So it's pretty cool to see her developing some Southern heritage. But anyway, so anything new going on with the restaurant or any like future plans? Is there any other type of ventures that you're interested in?
Man, ton of ventures I'm interested in. And you were just talking about that. Like my mind's just racing the whole time. Like the business, like the side hustle. Like right now the restaurant we're definitely working on quick expansion now. We have our 3 locations. We've been doing it 12, 13 years now. We're to the point now where I want to start opening locations every, 3 to 6 months, 12 months, whatever. So we're working on getting that one going and just building out our team right now. Still a few things we need to figure out. But yeah, my goal too is I want to be able to start taking some time away from Pizza Hoss to invest in other ideas and things like that. I'm always talking to people about business ideas and things I'd love to be involved in. And even things to do with the kids, just something as simple as like a vending machine route I've looked into just to kind of teach the kids a little bit about money and cash flow and inventory and things like that.
That's something we need so much more of. Parents,
yeah.
we got to be spending more time with our kids and finances. My dad was really, really good with finances. My dad's the tightest person I know with money. My dad has every receipt since 1992. I can guarantee you in a little red file at the house. It's not a joke. If he bought a stick of bubble gum back in '94, he can tell you where it was at and who was president. He'd tell you about how hard of a time it was because Clinton was in office, I believe.
I'm so opposite.
You know. Oh, yeah, for sure, dude. Like, I don't keep track of crap. And it's probably why, because my dad was so anal about it when I was a kid. I'm talking like as soon as we would walk in the door, first thing that would have to go is over to the Excel so we could plug that receipt in. I'm not kidding you, dude. Before, like,
that's some discipline.
No, it's not. It's not discipline. It's OCD, and he's very, very OCD. He's never been diagnosed, but I can promise you, I can guarantee it because I suffered with that too.
First, yeah, same here.
in a different aspect. My OCD is very, very different than his, but yeah.
No, yeah, the very first car I bought, the guy had a little pocketbook paper, whatever thing. He had every time he filled up gas, every date documented, how many gallons and what the total amount he spent on gas was.
Oh, yeah.
This thing was like 20 pages deep.
Oh, yeah.
Every time he filled up. I'm like, that's crazy.
I promise you, my dad right now has spreadsheets all the way back from the very first computer that he ever bought, and he can tell you to the penny. And I promise you it's not off by a penny. I promise you. If he forgets a receipt somewhere, I promise he's going back.
He still like balances checkbooks and things like that.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah. I don't know. I haven't talked to him in a bit, so I'm not really sure. But probably. But anyway, so as far as like starting up a new restaurant and stuff, what would you say is the most difficult part of doing that?
Just finding a location. You know, right now we kind of have to take over existing restaurant properties. So we can't just start from scratch because the build out's usually too high on that, you know, especially when you're leasing a property, sinking all that money into something is tough to do. So right now we're kind of still at that stage where we're looking for restaurant properties. So a lot of times it's just waiting for something that works, you know, the size we need, the right lease and all that stuff. So anywhere in Knoxville we're looking at right now. Fountain City and Halls are the two ideal locations we'd love to be in, and potentially Clinton. But, you know, we'll go anywhere that we can just find the right property and negotiate the right deal.
Right. As far as, so was Pizza Hoss the very first pizza restaurant that you opened, or the very first restaurant in general that you opened?
I started that back in 2012, and that was the first thing. When I was living out in California before I moved out here, I was really close because I worked at a pizza place out there for like 7 years, and I had a loan lined up and everything. I was going to buy one of their stores, and then just kind of got cold feet last minute and backed out. I didn't feel comfortable, which turned out to be a nice thing because that was like a couple months later is when I found out I was moving out here. So it worked out well.
You'd have been in a bad spot then.
But once I got out here, and you know, I was working a job out here for about a year, and you know, I was pretty miserable, and I saw this pizza place down the street from my house for sale. It was cheap, and you know, it's kind of one of those spur of the moment decisions just to buy it and run with it. And
for sure. What would you say was the hardest thing about, because I know now it's finding location. I'm sure location was probably part of it at the beginning, but as far as just stepping out there and just first opening your own restaurant, because I'd imagine that's got to be an intimidating thing.
100%.
Like, because I think you said before that you worked in like pizza places growing, like in high school and stuff growing up. And so what would you say was probably the most difficult thing about getting started?
The financing.
Just financing.
I was completely underfinanced.
Yeah.
I went to this company. I thought I was getting a legitimate bank loan. Basically, they opened up a bunch of credit cards in my name, high interest credit cards, and so I basically had to do like cash advances off these cards to buy the store and get running. And I wouldn't recommend that to anyone. You know, fortunately it worked out, but you know, it was a lot of years of paying down some high interest debt and having to move money around and manipulate things constantly just to try to pay the bills. So like I said, it took about 4 years before we really got going.
Right, but what successful business owner doesn't make some just god-awful mistakes along the way?
And that's the thing too. I was so naive. Like I had worked at a pizza place for 7 years. I could run that place inside and out. So I thought I got this, but ownership is 10 times different. It doesn't matter how much experience you have managing a restaurant. Ownership, nothing prepares you for that. I mean, it's just such a huge learning curve and so many things you got to learn, and it's tough. So it took a while to really get going. I'm still learning today. I mean, the learning never stops, and we're still trying to, you know, try to be the most efficient we can be, and that'll never stop. Change
the pace a little bit on this, and this has no reflection on you or your business, obviously. This is just a generalized restaurant, I guess, kind of question, because one thing that we talk about on this show, because it's very important to me, is addiction. And so I know that just from my own past experience, though, and just a bunch of other people that I know, restaurants, just that whole industry is kind of known for just like kind of drug haven. And so what's been your experience with that, like over the years, Obviously, I'm not calling out any kind of specific people or anything, but just like, has that been something that you've struggled with or something you've had to deal with?
Yeah, it is tough. So it's funny. We just, we had to let go of a guy last week who was a little bit out there, and he was definitely an addict, you can tell. And it's kind of a joke because a lot of times when you do get, especially more of the adults, like, like I said, we typically employ younger kids, entry-level workers.
Sure.
So we don't tend to see a lot of that with them. They're just normal kids that go out and have fun and do things they're not supposed to. Potheads, they'll drink a little bit, stuff like that. But no, the older ones usually have the stronger addictions and things like that. And that's everywhere in the restaurant industry. The joke kind of is you just kind of hope they're a functioning addict. Someone who can come in, at least do their job and at least wait until they're off before that happens. But it is a problem, and the restaurant industry does attract people.
I mean, I remember having the dope man. I would tell him what time I would get to work and make sure he was there in an hour and a half because I knew that's how long it would take me in tips to get my money up. You know what I mean? Because then I would have to spend that first hour and a half of tips just to be able to function, to be able to get through the rest of the night, so I could get high again at the end of the night. And it just the sick process. And I guess that's maybe what the draw is to the restaurant industry is the tips, and you're getting money.
So, and that's the thing too. We get servers in all the time. They come in day one, they'll crush it for their first week. We're like, wow, we found someone great here. This is awesome. But it's really just until they get their first bit of money, they go buy drugs, whatever, and then they're gone. And then they'll try to come back a couple of days later. Oh, sorry, with all the excuses, trying to work again, but we've seen it so many times now. It's like we don't even give that second chance. We're ready to move on at that point. But it happens all the time. It's just part of the industry, and it is difficult. But
for sure,
it is what it is.
Is addiction anything that you've ever had to deal with? Not personally, maybe, but just in general, maybe from some friends or something like that you had to deal with? Because we don't want to just get addict perspectives. Like, I mean, just because everybody seems to deal with it in some form or fashion. Like everybody's got somebody in their life, it seems like, anymore. That's why it's such an important topic for me, man.
It's scary.
And so, I feel like it's something that need to be talked about, because especially for people that's like maybe not addicts, that has friends or family members with addicts, getting them involved in Al-Anon, which is like NA and AA, but it's for friends and family members of addicts, and teaching them a new way to live outside of helping the addict. And so, I think that Al-Anon is something that's not nearly talked about nearly enough in our culture, especially with everything that's going on with addiction and stuff. And so that's one reason I like to throw that question kind of out there, just out of curiosity, maybe.
Yeah, so I got a few responses to that. I've never dealt with it personally myself. I don't have anyone. I've had a few friends that obviously have had some troubles and things like that. But I'm a psychology guy, and addiction has always been something that's interested me. Like, I'm always definitely interested in how people's minds work, like the psychology behind all of our decision making, our motivations, and things like that. And I love watching all the documentaries, intervention, things like that. So I don't have the firsthand experience. And I don't want to sound naive, but I feel like I have a strong grasp of what creates that. Everything I feel like goes back to our childhood traumas. You got plenty
of experience, man. You got people twacked out in the kitchen, bro. You got plenty of experience, man.
Right. Yeah, but addiction it's rampant. And I was interested in yours. I saw your first podcast where you kind of talked about that a little bit, but what was your drug of choice?
Heroin, man.
Yeah, damn.
We call it Heron on here. I don't know. That's kind of taken off. People was liking it when I call it Heron. I don't know. I only did that for algorithm purpose. But anyway, and so, it started off with just pain pills in general. I never liked uppers, man. I hated speed. I hated cocaine. Like, I would do it because it's impolite. If somebody offers you cocaine, it's impolite to say no. And so the only thing I would say no to crack, but I said no to crack. So
you had some lines.
Yeah, I do. I had boundaries. I was an addict with boundaries. The boundaries were pretty much meth and crack, though. That was pretty much it. And I did meth one time kind of inadvertently. I didn't mean to. You know what I mean?
How does that happen? You just slipped and found your mouth on the pipe?
I thought it was Molly, and I'm sure Molly was in it, but, it was heavily cut, I would say.
So it's funny, too, because I just reconnected with my best friend from high school, which the funny thing is, before I moved out here, he moved out to North Carolina. So when I got out here, he's only 3 hours away.
Oh, hell yeah.
So anyways, we've been best friends since high school, and we kind of haven't talked in a few years, but we've recently reconnected.
Yeah.
But he's one of my friends, and I was telling, my girlfriend about this the other day. It was so when we were kids, all of our big group of friends, we all would, drink and smoke weed, things like that. And I was never really a big weed smoker, but I did like to drink. Mm-hmm. And but he was a guy, he never did any of that with us.
Yeah.
Then all of a sudden, one day, he just starts doing heroin. Yeah. He skipped over everything and just started doing heroin. And he developed a strong bad habit quick, and then it turned into cocaine. He couldn't manage his money. Fortunately, he was able to kind of go cold turkey and really kind of I don't know, get himself well, but
Bro, I can't
it was
imagine.
tough watching him.
I can't imagine going 0 to 60 like that on some
Yeah.
heat run. Because I remember the very first time that I got like really, really high, I was 18. I was probably 18. I had just went through a pretty tough time in life, and I was hanging out with some unsavory gentlemen in Oak Ridge. And when I got there, he was like, he could tell I was in a pretty bad place, but he was in a pretty bad place too, I suppose. And so he was like, you want to get high? And I was like, well, I always want to get high, so of course. And he said, do you want to get high really fast? And I was like, yes, I do. Like, we're wasting time right now, as a matter of fact. And so, they were sitting there shooting up, and they were shooting up oxys. Heroin hadn't quite made it to Knoxville yet. Heroin didn't really start hitting Knoxville until I'd say about 2010. About 2010 is when heroin started hitting around here. The Detroit boys started bringing it down. But yeah, I was totally down for it. And at the time, I was just doing like hydrocodone. I was just partying and doing some little things. Well,
So you're just on the cusp of kind of getting ready to start losing control of
I'm still
B&M.
on the playground. You know what I mean? This is recess. I'm out here just playing. Them guys are getting serious. And so I was like, well, sure. Why not? And so he had loaded up 60 milligrams of Oxycontin into a needle, and he hit me in the arm because I didn't know what I was doing at the time. And man, that was the highest I'd probably ever been in my whole life. Like, to this day, it is the highest I'd ever been in my whole entire life. And I remember swearing I would never, ever, ever use a needle again. And I didn't for a few years, and because it scared me, dude. It scared me. And it scared me because of how fast. He was like, I'm going to take this belt off your arm and count to 5. He pulled that belt off. I said, 1, 2, 3. And I had to grab a hold of the counter. And I don't really remember a whole lot after that. But I know that it was amazing to me because, like, looking back now, like, all the times I had gotten high after that, and it seemed like it was such a short-lived thing. But that first time, bro, it was like 36 hours. I mean, I was gone, dude, gone.
Well, that's what they say, and I don't know if it's true or not, but
Chasing
they say, like, it's like that first, you're always trying to recreate that first time. You never will, right?
Never.
Do you know, so I feel like everything is all revolved around your childhood trauma, right?
For sure.
Do you know what your trauma was that kind of made you use, or was it just... Because you said you were the black sheep of the family,
I love
so
this
something
conversation. This is great. I don't know that there's just one. I feel like mine was a combination of quite a few different things. So when my parents were divorced when I was like 2, everything was pretty calm and pretty civil and chill until I was about 9. And at 9, I wanted to go live with my dad. And so it started this big custody battle. But the reason I wanted to go live with my dad is because we was up living in this farmhouse that was like Amityville Horror. And I'm not joking. I'm being so serious about this. I mean, it was one of those, it was a 100-year-old farmhouse. It was over off Drygate Pike. And when we moved in, we all loved the house, old farmhouse, right? And so, but it was one of them deals where it's like the dad falls in love, and then all of the family starts having this stuff happen, but dad doesn't believe anything that's going on, and the next thing you know, everybody's hanging from trees in the backyard, and you know what I'm saying? It was dad that done it. It kind of, not that he was possessed or anything like that. I'm just saying the house reminded me of something like from Amityville Horror. I mean, and I felt like I took the brunt of it. And because the way this house worked, there was 2 levels, and upstairs there was only 2 bedrooms, and then there was this day room, and the stairs from the living room came up into the day room. For about the first 6 months or so that we lived there, man, you couldn't get me out of the upstairs. Like, it was my apartment. That's what I called it, my apartment. I was like 7 at the time or something, man. And I never came down from there. I remember they got me a Nintendo 64. Like, when it first came out, man, you couldn't get me out. It was my place, man. I said, y'all holler at me for dinner. You know what I'm saying? I'm in my apartment. And it was all well good, but I would come home from school. The bus would drop me off. I was in like 3rd grade or so, but it would drop me off like right in front of the house. I'd walk up the driveway, and I would be home by myself for the first little while until my stepdad got home. And for about the first 6 months, man, the house was awesome, dude. We loved it. And then I remember when it happened, I was sitting there and I was playing Cruising USA on Nintendo 64 because it was like the first game that ever came out, riding through Redwood Forest. I remember that. But anyway, I remember I was sitting there in the day room, and I'm facing the TV. Well, when you got to the top of the steps, which was behind me, there was like this little attic access door, right? And so I remember when I was sitting there for the very first time, and all of a sudden I felt something behind me, and I turned around, and from that point on, that door didn't sit right with me after that. And so, but after that moment, it was almost like it felt like it had been discovered and wanted to show itself more. I don't know, dude, because after that, man, stuff started happening like crazy. And I mean, footsteps constantly, bro. Like you'd hear footsteps up and down the steps all night long. You'd see shadows pass in front of lights. Oh, dude, it was crazy awesome, man. Like looking back now, I'm like, man, I'd love to go back.
Yeah.
I even went back and asked that guy.
Isn't that funny? All the stuff we had as kids. Like my dad had this old Jimmy. We used to always make fun of him, but I would love that car today.
Yeah.
You know, he took us on the boat. We'd always make fun of the boats we had, like spoiled brats. But like, dude, everything we had back then, that'd be so badass. I'd love to have all that today.
Dude, my stepdad had some cool Broncos, had a bunch of cool Jeeps throughout the years, man. And we had all kinds of little things. But anyway, so that house though, man, it would start getting like, it started sparking up a little bit. A lot more stuff started happening. And then it got to the point where I wouldn't sleep upstairs anymore. And so I would sleep downstairs on the couch, but I felt like nobody really believed me. You know what I'm saying? And so I'm sleeping downstairs on the couch. I did that for a year or two, I guess. But it started getting so bad, man, that like I would turn the daylight on upstairs and I would be sleeping in the living room. The steps come down in the living room. So you could see the light shining down the steps. And all night long, you could hear it walking up and down, up and down. And then you could, every once in a while, you could look, you'd hear it, and then you'd see a shadow, and then it'd go back. Like you could watch it pass and then walk back. And so there was a bunch of stuff, man. There was rocking chairs.
No one else had these experiences or anything that freaked them out?
So, yeah. I was the oldest. My siblings were real young, so they never had anything they really remember happening. I was the oldest. My mama swears that a man with red hair walked in on her changing one night.
Oh, dang.
We found the tombstone for the guy that built the house in the front yard. We realized later on that there was a woman that got shot on the front porch.
Buried just like under your front yard?
Yeah, evidently so, man. It was his final resting place was just chilling in the backyard next to the pool. You know, we'd sit over and splash him a little bit, make sure his grass was growing, you know, throw some flowers on there. You know what I'm saying?
It's like the first down marker when you're playing football as a kid. Like, oh, just go to the tombstone. You know, that's first down.
Yeah, well, what was bad is the tombstone was actually being used as a step. Like, we didn't realize it was a tombstone. There was like 2 or 3 slabs face down going up into the backyard.
Here lies Jerry. You know?
Yeah, and we started remodeling, and we pulled that thing up, and it was like, oh, Johnny's here. Okay, cool. You know, and so I don't know if that's who it was or not, but I definitely felt like there was 2 different things in that house. Like there was something that was like malicious and something that wasn't. Something was playful, and it was weird, man.
So you told your mom, though, you wanted to move out. Like, what happened with that?
Yeah, man. So it became, you know, this is where we're starting to get into that deeper water. And I don't mind to because it's conversation that needs to be had because it's uncomfortable. But it's, so my mom and my dad never really got along. To this day, they don't get along.
Same here.
Yeah. Of course, my dad doesn't make it better on himself. My dad, he likes to drive. He likes to just drive it in every chance he gets, man, just for no reason. Yeah. I mean, they've been divorced for 30-something years now. I mean, she's been remarried for 30 years. You know what I mean? And but any chance that he's ever gotten over the years to kind of drive in a little more and drive in a little more, he always has. And then he's always like, I don't understand why your mom doesn't like me. Well, it's like you piss her off every chance you get.
All right.
You know, she was trying to be done with you 30 years ago.
Like victim mentality or something?
Oh, bro, my dad's terrible with victim mentality. Oh, it's so
worse
bad.
To me.
And but anyway, my mom's feelings that she had toward my dad were so strong that she felt like he was coercing me to come live with him, but he actually wasn't. He never tried. He never offered. He never.
So you had
asked.
a good relationship with your dad as a kid?
I mean, it was okay. The draw to go and live with him was I had an older stepbrother, you know, and what kid doesn't want to be around an older brother? I had a little brother at my mom's, but you know, when you're a young kid, man, if you got a chance to be around an older kid or a younger kid, you naturally want to gravitate to the older kid. And so, you know, my stepbrother was there. The house wasn't sketch. There was air conditioning in the house because my room upstairs, like there was no central heat upstairs. It was so old. And so like I had this little box unit, but it wasn't even an air conditioner. It was just a fan. And so in the summertime, bro, it was miserable.
But that was your thing. You just wanted to live somewhere comfortable. It wasn't like you favored one parent over the other.
No, it had nothing to do with that at all, dude. Not anywhere close. And it was literally like I wanted to be able to sleep in my bed at night. You know what I mean? I wanted to be comfortable. Yeah. I didn't want to be woke up all night by something walking up and down the steps. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, that's one of our basic needs as like humans, you know, is shelter, like comfortable shelter.
Exactly. And so at 9 years old, man, I'm like sitting here trying to figure this out for like 2 years on my own, dude. And it was like, it finally got to a spot where my dad was taking me home one night. It was a Sunday because he had every other weekend with me, and he was taking me home. And we were jumping on the interstate right over here on Emory Road. And I was like, if you drop me off, I'll run away. Like, I'm done. I'm not going back. And I was that serious about it. You know what I mean? But from that, it just sparked this massive, like, drawn out custody battle. And I started seeing a court-ordered psychologist when I was, I believe, 9. And so they had me going through, and I guess from 9 to maybe like 11 or 12, maybe, I was seeing like this psychologist and then some psychiatrists. They ended up putting me on a bunch of meds and made me like a zombie as a kid. And I didn't like that. And they tried to tell me I was manic depressive, bipolar. And maybe I am. I don't know, possibly. But I've not been re-diagnosed with that since I was like a kid. I don't really, like, I've got times where I feel like I'm a bit manic, you know what I mean?
Well,
but
and not to keep jumping around, but because I've just recently kind of started looking into my mental health in the last year, you know, so I'm just kind of new to this stuff. But like, is there something you've been diagnosed with where you're kind of just like, no, that's not me?
Yeah, well, so I was like that with bipolar for years. I'll be real honest. In the last couple of years, I've considered that possibly I don't know the difference. There's like type 1, type 2 and stuff like that. Like, I don't have like crazy fits of rage or anything like that, but I definitely have manic phases. I feel like, and my manic phases can go in quick, rapid cycles also. So I've kind of thought that maybe I'm like a rapid cycling bipolar, but I don't know. Like, there's so many diagnoses out there at this point, right?
Yeah, and a lot of it all, like, it just overlaps each other.
And it's like, what's a mental health diagnosis and what's just life experience too. Like, I feel like there's a fine line, and I feel like a lot of people are diagnosed with some sort of mental thing when actually all it is they've just been through a bunch in their life, and it's just figuring out how to deal with it.
Exactly.
Like, their mind has processed. And that's not to say that, you know, and some people just need meds. You know, I mean, it is what it is. And if you need meds, that's cool. You know, whatever. Like, as long as you're getting help, that's all that matters. Like, you got to talk about it, and you got to get help if you need help. And so that's what's important. But yeah, the bipolar, I don't know how I feel about it. I don't know. Like, when I was younger, I was dealing with a lot of aggression and stuff, but I felt like I had some reasons to be angry. You know what I mean? And so, like, when I went to go live with my dad, he was working constant. My dad's a workaholic, still is to this day. He's got the addict nature just like I've got. But his is more money driven. His is financially driven.
So he channels it in a more positive way, so to speak, but not necessarily.
Oh, yeah, bro. I mean, there's no telling how much money that guy has saved, because every time I talk to him, you would think that he is the brokest dude you've ever met. And knowing better. I mean, the dude has no bills, makes stupid money, good government job. And I'm like, come on, dude.
Yeah.
And, but anyway, but it's fine, because I don't know. I guess he feels like maybe he can take it with him or something, so he just keeps storing it up, and just working his life away. And, you know, I've tried to tell him for years, and finally I've just quit telling him. But I try to tell him for years, like, man, you're just wasting so much time. And it makes me grateful, though, because I'm able to look at him and his experience, because my mind does operate a lot of the same way that his does, but I'm able to kind of make some changes, some calculations, because I see it doesn't work. Yeah. You know, like, I've got to be able to balance family. If I cannot prioritize family over work, I've messed up. Like, it has to prioritize. The family has to be number one. And I've not always done great at that. Like, I have failed miserably at that sometimes.
You can, especially when you got that entrepreneur mind and all that stuff. It's hard to balance.
It's so hard. Balance is the one thing I feel like I've always struggled the most with in life, is finding balance. I've never been able to find it. People are like, oh, you just need to start journaling, or you need to start keeping a notebook, or you need to start writing down tasks. Like, I'm not a notebook and task kind of guy. I'm a fly by the seat of my pants. Like, I wake up and I wing it from daylight to dark. Like, that's where I function best, I feel like. And so, but at the same time, it causes me a lot of trouble in the fact that I can't, because I am very ADHD. Like, bro, I am a bouncy ball. You should have seen me in here trying to build this thing. I had 98 different things going at one time. And I was cleaning the house. I had stuff stretched across the yard at one point. I was in here building this and cleaning up my truck at the same time the other day.
I said, you start working on something, and then before you finish, you're like, oh, wait, I got to go do this real quick. And then you start on this, like, and then you jump over here, and then you come back and finish, and then you go back. Yeah.
So, dude, I've got this mental block I've noticed about myself over the years, about completing something. I don't know what it is. I am content with finishing something to 95%.
Yeah,
Because
that
for
is an
me,
ADHD thing.
once I know that the challenge is done, I could
Same
get
here,
like,
yeah.
I'm done, bro.
So, and that's what with Pizza Hoss, everyone always asks, I started all the stores, I sell them, but it's like, I hate the maintaining.
Yeah.
Like, why do you sell them? Like, because my goal now is I want to build and sell. I
So
love
is it
the
just a
first
royalty
year.
thing now?
I love, yeah, pretty
Yeah,
much.
beautiful.
I mean, and I just, I enjoy the startup. I enjoy that first year, the grind, the figuring out the efficiency and the system and how we're going to get going. But once we get to the point where everything's kind of running fairly well and
Yeah.
we just got to maintain,
Yeah.
I'm ready to move on.
Bro, when you do the next one, we're documenting from start to finish.
Yeah, it'd be bad.
That's
I love
gonna be
that.
cool,
Yeah,
for sure.
it'd be good learning too.
That'll be awesome.
That's what's cool about doing stuff like this. I feel it's all very like cathartic, when you talk about this stuff out loud and stuff. I mean, it really gives you that insight, like you kind of opened up with, and
Yeah.
and just help and understand your life better. I mean,
Yeah,
that's
dude.
kind of what now, especially as you get older, that's what you start really, you spend most of your life younger worrying about, girls and money and a house and a
And
car.
what people
and
think about you.
all this stuff. Yeah,
Some
exactly.
status or
It's
something,
stuff that
man.
don't matter.
Yeah, and then you get older. I don't give a damn about any of
Yeah,
that now,
yeah.
man. I could care less about.
That's
any
what I
kind
love
of
too.
status.
I've been an ADHD thing too, is like being a people pleaser, which kind of I've been my whole life.
Yeah,
But and that creates a lot of trouble sometimes. But when you get older, you care less and less, and you stop just really worrying about that stuff and realizing what's important to you, and really just
Yeah.
kind of chasing that.
and then a lot of it, I think, too, comes from over time and where we start learning our own value. We start valuing ourselves more. We start realizing that our time is precious, and it comes with age when you start realizing that time is short. Man, there was some.
Yeah.
I'm just 35. I'll be 36 in a couple of months, but in the last 2 years, even, man, it's like started setting in so much more that like this is such a fleeting thing, dude.
Yeah.
It is so fast, and like these kids, bro, they're getting so fast, so quick. And I know, people always tell you that, and it just doesn't ever resonate until you're sitting there one day and you're like, damn, like I got one that's almost out of the house.
Yeah, that's nuts.
It's crazy, dude.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, now what? And so now I'm almost like, I know it sounds crazy because my youngest, she's just 6, but I'm just in my mind, I'm like, damn, it's just 12 more years, man. Like that's 12 very short years, and they're all gone. And so like, I don't know, you start messing with your head after a little bit, dude. You start getting like a woman a little bit, and you're like, let me get a baby up in here or something. No, I'm just kidding. No babies.
We got a friend with a young baby. Yeah, you just got to like hold them for a couple minutes, get that fixed, and then you're like, all right, no, I don't really need one.
No, I ain't ashamed to say I'll be getting baby fevers from time to time. I love kids, man.
I do too. Yeah,
kids are awesome, man.
Yeah.
It's probably the most rewarding thing that we get in this life, man, is raising kids. It's a beautiful thing. And so
It's also a maddening thing.
gosh, bro.
Takes a lot of years off our life.
It does, man. I've started being
But
like
it's
up
great.
in here. These grays I'm getting a patch, man. It started popping up in like the last 6 months, and I've never had a gray right there. And so, but yeah, man, dude, this has been so much fun. This has been awesome.
100%.
I think for the first like sitting down with somebody, bro, this could not have went better. I thank you so
Cool,
much.
man. Yeah.
This was great.
Absolutely.
So anyway, I think that's a wrap on episode 1, kicking it with Justin Holmes, the owner of Pizza Hoss, the entrepreneur that's going to just keep building these things and flipping them. I think it's a beautiful thing.
yeah.
It's so cool, man. Thank you so much for coming on here.
Yeah,
I
man.
look forward to
This
working more with
was
you. We're
cool.
going to have
This was
fun.
to talk about it. Yeah. We need to dive into a lot more of these
For sure.
these darker topics, man. That's some good stuff. I love how you talk about, as men, we don't talk about a lot of this stuff, and it does set us back, like you said. I mean, I'm 42. You're 36, and we're just now starting to get into really kind of how our brains work. So.
Yeah, that is a whole thing.
We should start that a lot sooner.
Oh, yeah, we got to start this topic next time. Yeah, for sure. I'm excited. We're going to have you back on in a couple of weeks. I'm just going to do this again, I think. Let's do it, man.
Let's do it.
All right. Hey, I'm Manda Mike. This has been a blast. I look forward. Hey, this will be dropping. I guess you already see it by the time it's dropped. I've never done that before. So, hey, if you find this content valuable, if it helps, if it's adding anything to your life, I would greatly appreciate if you would subscribe and hit that notification bell. I'm trying to drop videos every Wednesday at 4 p.m. and then kind of sporadically along the way. Look me up on TikTok, Manda Mike, and we are out. Love y'all.
Nice. Yeah, good.